In my mind, you're either fat, you're fit, or you're Brian off those cigarette packets in Australia. You know those ones that try to stop people smoking by showing to them what might happen? Hey guys, look at me! But as it turns out, I'm wrong. Incredibly incorrect. Sure, there are the Brians, there are the fit people who are also now known as fat phobes, but fat, the word fat, the descriptive term of fat, is outdated. No longer can it be used. You see, being fat, being obese is a lot like having autism. Fat people aren't just fat people, they are on a spectrum. And we must respect that. Much like autistic people are on a spectrum, fat people are now on a spectrum because of course. There are many flavors of obese, much like the gender spectrum as well. There's gender fluid fat people, there's fat fluid gender people. I have no idea what I'm saying, but there are many different categories. Yes, that's an actual word that they use. Categories. No, I'm serious. It's here. Categories. Understanding the fat spectrum. By the way, this is a 26-minute read that I read for you. You people don't deserve me. I read it, I lived it, and I'm gonna skim over it for you. All right, let's talk about these categories. Strap some statins to your head because we're gonna chew the fat about the fat spectrum, and we're going to enjoy some fat-related puns on the way. Before I go on, I should probably say this is from fluffykittenparty.com, which I believe is as high of a journalistic standard as the Washington Post. I'm sure you'll all agree with me. Isn't fat enough of a descriptor? Honestly, no. Not really. I imagine this person was eating something while they wrote this. Fatness, like many things, exists on a spectrum. It's probably like cheese and biscuits and stuff. The easiest way to visualize the fat spectrum is an arrow pointing up. For me, I like to think of it as a bathroom scale, just continuously spinning because you're a giant fat fuck. As your size and weight go up, so do the number of barriers you face. Oh, let's go out on a limb here, and as we go through the article, we realise that the barriers that they face, they blame on other people. And these barriers are also referenced, I would imagine, as something known as privilege, or thin privilege, or fit privilege. I hate the privilege argument because a lot of the time, the privilege that people talk about is something that people worked to get. Let's say you have a lot of money. Maybe you worked very hard to get that. Maybe you're a CEO. Is that a privilege, or did you just work very hard to get there? What if you got a degree? Is that a privilege as well? That knowledge, is that a privilege, or did you just work very hard to get there? It's the same with a lot of fit people. That's not a privilege. They aren't getting over these obstacles just because they're privileged, just because they fucking worked for it, you lazy fucks. Sorry. I know that was aggressive, but it had to be said. The spectrum starts at small fats. Okay, so there's not just fat people, there's small fats. Then there's medium fats, mid-fats, sorry. Then large fats, and then super fats, infinite fats. And then I think there's one more, but I'm not sure if people can actually make it to that other part of the spectrum, or their size becomes so big that their body can't sustain that size and it actually implodes like a black hole and starts sucking everything else into it. Size depression touches many areas of fat people's lives. These conversations can be very new. Size depression. Really? That's the word we're going for here? Oppression? Could you imagine going back in time and talking to African slaves in America and walking up and going, yeah, I know you look like you're pretty oppressed there, you know, you're locked and chained up in a fucking barn, but I can't put my shoes on in the morning because I eat too much fucking cheesecake. So, you know, mate, little respect. So the author of this work created a glossary of terms to describe fat people. I like to call it a fat fiction. Sounds delicious. These are all apparently terms you'll hear in fat communities. So there's my favorite term to start us off, straight size. I love this. A straight size person is quite simply someone who is not fat. They do not require plus size clothing, and their body weight is not generally a barrier for their daily lives. Wow, why do you need to label regular people? That's different. I will say this, why are you labeling straight size people as healthy? You don't know if they're healthy, they could have fucking cancer. What are you talking about? Or are you suggesting that fuck these people, even if they do have health problems, they're not infinite fat, so they're not oppressed and they don't have barriers and no one cares about them? Then we get to mid-size. This is a term some straight people Oh, straight-sized people. See, why is it mixed up? Why is straight-sized and straight people? Why are they almost the same term? That makes no sense. Many straight-sized people have coined to describe their... So you could be, if you're a thin person who's a part of the LGBT community, you could be a gender-fluid, straight-sized... My God! You need to look at your Instagram bio to remember what you are. That is ridiculous. Basically for people who are not fat and not skinny, people who consider themselves mid-size are often around a US women's size 12 or 14. And in some cases even smaller. This is a variant of straight size. What is it, fucking COVID now? By the way, 12 to 14, which I guess is like an XL for women, like in men's sizes, that's not that big, I don't think. I mean, it's big for chicks, I guess, but it's not that big. And here's the thing, they only ever talk about this for women. It's never for men. That is what is hilarious about this, because no dude takes this seriously. But the fat chicks just lap it up like a soup. Small fat, below a US woman's 18. A small fat is someone on the smallest end of the fat spectrum. Think entry-level fat. Think about it, please. Okay, there's mid-fat and large fat, and then finally we come to my favorite term, super fat. The term super fat was coined at the No Loose conference in 2018. You can read the history of the super fat term here. How about fuck off? Super fat was created by the fattest members of the community who felt that mid-fat and large fat no longer suited them. You're graduating fatness. Surely soon you're gonna get to fat infinite fat, women's size 32 and 34 above, or maybe used as a variant of super fat. The term infinite fat was created by Ash of the Fat Lip, which I think is a podcast or who gives a shit. Infinite fat people face significant barriers due to institutionalized sizeism on a daily basis. The fact that you can't get up steps is not an institutionalized problem. You fucking whinging Why is everything blamed on the patriarchy? It is hilarious. Infinite fats may not even know their own actual clothing size because many plus size retailers do not include them at all. What do you want them to carry? Fucking tents? You've got to carry a big first aid tent from World War II just to fit this big fat fuck. But then, I found a term bigger than infinite fat. May I introduce you to death fat? It's a real term. I would have called it something different. If you're thinking about something bigger than infinite fat, I'd probably call it the Death Star. The term death fat was coined by writer and pioneer member of Fat... You are not a pioneer if you're a member of the Fashionista. Fashionista. God. Live journal community Leslie Kinsell in a blog post from 2008. The good old days. I'll be honest, I did read that article and it's just some lady complaining about being an elephant for a while. Don't read it. Death fat was not meant to have any specific size constraints and can refer to fat people of any size who wish to use the term to reclaim their morbid fatness. Yes, you gotta really own that shit, don't you? I love how many people in this community just ignore the fact that being that size is terrible for you and it will kill you. Once again, these are the same people who will scream from the rooftops about certain illnesses, right? Ones that we all had to get certain things for, but they will not lose weight because they need you to agree that it's actually quite healthy. And then they complain that doctors want them to get on the scales and maybe blame that for their weight. Although they say listen to the medical community and every single mainstream government issued doctor about everything else, all right? Not meaning to go conspiratorial on you, but isn't that strange? What a strange choice to make. Actually, later on that article, she goes, that doctor I wrote about who compared my stomach to a cancerous breast, yes, really, and made me cry, they were recommended to me by someone in the fat community who said they had a great weight-neutral experience with a doctor. They identified themselves as mid-fat. I was a US 28 and fell into the super fat category. Yes, okay, it's not very nice to hear that you have a cancerous breast on your body, that is your stomach, but it is very dangerous and it may lead to death, much like breast cancer does. So that's what your doctor's saying, mate. And I do not like that this spectrum exists. It's trying to normalize being ginormous rather than normalizing trying to stop it, making better food choices, moving around more, and eating less food. Just because you eat less food doesn't mean you're having an eating disorder, all right? I'm not saying don't eat anything. I'm saying find out what your maintenance calories are and eat just a little bit less and do it for years. You'll lose all the weight. I promise you, you'll be a lot healthier. All of this shit is just growing, much like the people who love it. It's growing and growing. It's growing on TikTok and Twitter. And then I saw this on Joe Rogan's Instagram, which was just did my head in. New government-funded food pyramid says Lucky Charms are healthier than steak. Yeah, and it didn't stop there. It said that chocolate-covered almonds were healthier than steak. Cheerios, mini-wheat cereals, Lucky Charms, canned pineapple with heavy syrup, M&Ms and ice cream, all healthier than steak. What? What's mad about that is I guarantee you, if all the infinite fats out there flipped that pyramid on its head and just ate the stuff at the top, they'd be a whole lot healthier. It's much like the old school food pyramid that we learned about in school that said eat bread 10 times a day. Fuck that shit, all right? Leafy greens and good meats. That's all you need, all right? Have that for every fucking meal. Don't eat too much, and I guarantee you won't be a dirty fat fuck for much longer. Anyway, it just goes to show, don't trust everything that you read, particularly if you're reading about the fat spectrum. That shit's fucking retarded.